Hello and welcome to the Federal podcast on India-Australia Test Series for the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. I am Aprameya. The third test ended inside 3 days in Indore today with Australia cruising to a 9-wicket victory. However, India still holds a 2-1 lead in the 4-match series. To discuss Australia's run chase on the third day and the overall performances of both teams, we are again joined by senior cricket writer R Kaushik from the Holkar Cricket Stadium in Indore. Thanks, Kaushik, for talking to the Federal.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you.
Kaushik, we discussed and hoped that the chase would be very close, but nothing of that sort happened, and Australia cruised to victory, chasing down 76 in the first session itself. Your thoughts on today's play, Kaushik?
Yeah, I mean, as we spoke yesterday, it would have required a bit of a miracle in the 140 odd years of Test cricket. You never had a team defending 76 successfully. The lowest score defended in a Test match in all these years is 85. So, despite the conditions, India were always going to be up against it. The only hope was to get a handful of wickets up front, maybe 3 wickets in the first 5-6 overs. That is the only way you could have had pressure. And to be fair, India started well. Ashwin produced a beautiful delivery to get rid of Usman Khwaja with the second ball of the chase. And then you thought, oh, okay, here we go. Let's see, there will be some drama and there will be some excitement. But I think Australia batted really nicely. I don't think Ravindra Jadeja bowled particularly well, and that can happen sometimes because when you know that you only have 76 to play with, then you're anxious for wickets, and when you're anxious for wickets, you go away from your methods, and therefore you do things that you would not normally do. Jadeja's best weapon has been to keep it steady, to keep it tight, and allow the batsman to make mistakes. But he went looking for wickets, which is understandable because that's the only way India could win the match. But therefore, all Australia had to do was be patient themselves. They took their time in the first 10 overs. They hardly scored a run. It was about, I think, 13 for no loss after 10 overs. And then
13
the ball changed.
One, I think, yeah.
13 for Khwaja's wicket after the first 10 overs. And then Travis had hit that boundary, and then the ball was changed. And after that, it was like a momentum shift happened. And then suddenly the sixes started flowing, the boundary started flowing. And really, after that, it was just a matter of how quickly the game would get over.
And with this win, Australia has sealed a spot in the final of the World Test Championship, and India still have a chance, but a win here could have got them there as well, isn't it, Kaushik?
True. I mean, obviously, when we came into the series, we knew that 3-0 or a 3-1 victory would secure, 3 victories would secure India's automatic place in the final. That is still on. Despite the defeat, India can still win in Ahmedabad. They already clinched the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. They cannot lose the series. Those are small consolations. We need to pick from what happened today because, to be fair, there's an additional performance in this Test match. But like you said, India still have a great chance of making it to the final. If they win in Ahmedabad, they are through. And if Sri Lanka don't win even one Test match in New Zealand, then they are out and India is through. So it's not all doom and gloom. But yeah, this defeat will grant to.
And overall, your assessment of this Test match, looking back, Kaushik, where did India go wrong? Is it with the batting? Or the first day only India lost the plot?
Yeah, I mean, when you win the toss and you get bowled out for 109 on the first afternoon, then clearly you're way behind the 8 ball. We saw what happened in the first 2 Test matches. Australia made 263 in the second Test in Delhi, and even that was not adequate. So 109 really was a very poor effort. On admittedly a difficult surface. I mean, today Rohit Sharma came for the press conference after the match, and he spoke about lapses in concentration on this pitch more than anything else. And he was a little bit unhappy that there was so much focus on the pitch. And he says it's only when people come to India that they speak about pitches, but matches get over in 3 days in other parts of the world. And this is our strength, and we'll continue to play on these pitches. And sometimes these pitches will come back to haunt us, but we're so big we're okay with it. That is the official line from Rohit Sharma. So I think the pitch had a big role to play in what happened on the first day. Having said that, I don't think, like we kept saying, even on the first day, some of the shot selection was really poor. And yes, overall, India was out-batted by Australia. And I would think on the first day, the way Australia bowled and then the way India bowled, because India also had about 50 overs of bowling on the first day, I think India were also out-bowled by the Australian spinners on the first day. So I think basically the tone for the match was set on the first day when India made 109 all out and Australia was 156 for 4. And from there could only be one winner unless something dramatically unforeseen happened.
Looking ahead to the next test in Ahmedabad starts on March 9th. Is there something like a panic set in the Indian dressing room, or is just one-off match and India will get back into its winning ways?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any panic in the Indian dressing room. There are a lot of wise heads there. There are a lot of people with plenty of experience of international cricket. You have a coach who's played 160 plus matches. We just had two people who completed 100 test appearances. You got Ashwin who's closing in on 100 appearances. Rohit Sharma has been around for a really long time. So I don't think panic will set in, definitely not. And if you look back at India's record at home in the last sort of 26 test matches, this is only the second defeat. It's only the first defeat since February 2021 against England. So these things happen. I mean, it just shows how dominant India are at home, that one single defeat and we start discussing it at detail. So we almost sort of take home victories for granted, which has always been India's strength. Of course, they've been a great side at home. Now they're traveling very well as well. So it is just one game and it's one defeat. But the important thing is also to understand that there are reasons why this defeat happened. And therefore, while it might be tempting to publicly say that it's a one-off and, we will talk about it and we'll get back, it's very important that within the confines of the dressing room or their strategy room or whatever they have, that the players and the support staff take note of the reasons why India lost this test match. Because there are very glaring reasons. One of the reasons is, of course, the inability to play competent spin in a confident manner. So that is something you cannot address that in 4 or 5 days, obviously. There has to be a mindset shift in the way you address that situation. You also have to go back and question yourself and find out, are we really the best players of spin anymore? Do we have the personnel who can get on top of bowling in difficult conditions? Do we have the people who can back time, who can use their own methods but score runs? Today, Rohit spoke about, doesn't matter who scores runs so long as we got runs on the board. But I think it's important that you demand runs of your top order because they're expected to bat. You can't expect the Ashwins and the Jadejas and the other players to score runs and take wickets. So there is a reason to look at that. There is a reason to see whether we really need Akshar Patel, as silly as it might sound, in light of our batting performances, that if he's not going to be bowling, then he's batting at number 9. Would you think you need another batsman if you're not confident of your batting group? So do you think Surya Kumar Yadav should play? These are things that they will ponder, and definitely not panic time by no stretch of the imagination, but there are questions that need to be asked and there are questions that need to be answered, if only within the dressing room.
Right. One last question. Looking ahead to Ahmedabad, we might expect the same conditions as well, isn't it, Kaushik? And what is the news on Pat Cummins? Any news whether he'll be available? Is he coming back for the last test?
We're not sure. Pat Cummins' name hardly came up in the Australian press conference except for Steve Smith talking about how he's just standing in for Pat Cummins, and he said his thoughts are still with Cummins, who's in Australia. So we know that he's not yet here, and there's 1 week, like you said, to go for the next test match. So we will probably know about Cummins' status over the next couple of days. So if he comes back, it will create a fresh headache for Australia. What do they do with their combination?
Right.
Do they play? If Cummins comes back, then obviously Cummins has to play. So who goes out? Is it Mitchell Starc? Is it one of the spinners? Steve Smith has led the team beautifully in this test match. So what happens to that? It's just a little tricky. So I guess we'll have to wait and watch as to what the Cummins situation is. As far as the conditions are concerned, I don't think we'll get something too vastly different from what we have seen in this series so far. One only hopes the pitch is not as spiteful as it was here from day one. In fact, if you saw yesterday's pitch would have been a great pitch for day 4 of a test match, not for day 2 of a test match. So if the conditions, and Rohit sort of made it clear that this is the kind of pitches that India will favor going forward, not necessarily today's kind of pitch or this test match kind of pitch, but the kind of pitches you had in Nagpur and Delhi, slow turners, dry in the business ends. Those are the kind of pitches. I don't think anything will change from that. So it's just a question of making sure that you don't get sucked into the same kind of mistakes that you made here. And I think there is enough quality, whether there's enough belief is what we have to see. We spoke about belief within the Australian team after the first 2 test matches. I think India need to believe that they can do it, and then they must back up that talk by walking it, not just by talking it.
Thanks for your thoughts, Kaushik.